I have been overweight more or less most of my life since about the age of 11. And I have tried many different types of diets, counting points, counting calories, measuring, writing things down, not writing things down. I've tried them all. And while some worked and it seemed to be successful, but then when it came to the actual maintenance program, then that was when the weight piled back on, and some didn't work at all. It had been a very bad year. I'd had various bereavements and a lot of stress, and the weight really had piled on, and I just felt rock bottom, really. And it had also been very frustrating because I have always tried to eat healthily, despite however stressed or unhappy I felt, but it just didn't seem to make any difference, even exercising. And I just felt that something needed to change. I just didn't know really what that was. I had been very used to eating very quickly, finishing up everything on my plate. It was just a habits that I had got into really unthinkingly, probably from childhood. The idea that I really felt bad about leaving food, because when I sat down and examined it, that's what I felt. I felt wasteful, and probably had been told that in the past by my parents. So actually getting into the habit of thinking half or third of the way through my meal, am I full? Do I actually need to eat anymore? And then feeling free to leave it, because for me that had always been very, very hard. So that was a major difference. So actually thinking and realizing that I didn't need to eat as much as I had been eating, because clearly that had been the problem. I did not feel restricted or deprived at all. In fact, it was an incredibly painless experience the whole way through. Because most diets are pretty painful, and you do feel restricted. You can't eat before a certain time, you have to do this or weigh that. Well, actually, that is another myth that was very quickly debunked by you, which I think made a huge difference to losing the weight and keeping it off. My relationship with food really has changed, because although I tried to eat very healthily, I was very angsty about it all the time. There were lots of things that I would not eat. And I just very much demonized food. Now that has completely changed, because I don't do that anymore. I feel much more relaxed about food, and actually I will have the odd burger, which I would never have touched in a million years, or a few chips or some sweets. But there are certain things that I will now accept in my diet, and I do feel much more freedom. I actually feel free around food now, and that has been another major difference, because before I felt like I was completely chained. I felt like a prisoner. Things would be different this time around, because my mindset is different. I think about food in a different way. It's not the old unthinking, let's just pile it in mentality, which I did before. I ate at my desk, or I ate on the sofa in front of the TV, or it is where I eat has changed, as well as how I eat. The other thing that has changed, and thanks to you, I don't feel scared about scales anymore. Whereas I just would go weeks or months without them, because it was such a big deal. Getting on those scales, just screwing up my courage. And the feelings of dread beforehand were very, very real. I had a real fear of scales. Now I don't. It's just data. You said yourself many times to me, it's just data. That's how I regard stepping on the scales. And that, I think, just keeping on track of it is a key way, I think, of maintaining the weight loss. I would say just don't hesitate to change your approach, because if things haven't worked before, they haven't worked up to now, what you've been doing, they won't work. You have to change your approach. You have to change your mindset. Don't be afraid to examine your thoughts around food. I've really enjoyed working with Lisa. I think she's incredibly effective. She is very patient, and she's very accepting, and I felt that I could tell her things that I couldn't tell others, particularly if it was around the reasons why I was stressed and the reasons why I was overeating. And she would always come back with an idea, a suggestion, a strategy, and a tool for overcoming some of the difficulties that I was experiencing, because I'm sure that the struggles that I face in my life and the reactions that I have towards that stress in overeating, overdrinking, just getting upset and miserable are what other people do, and it's, I say, the universal problem. But what I found when I started Lisa's program was that things changed for me with that, because I was, for the first time, I was aware of the link between eating, drinking, and feeling miserable and stressed. And if you can uncover that, then I think that is half the battle.